This conference will now be recorded.
It's Monday, August 5th at 5 o'clock. We're going to call the Board of Civil Authority to order in 2024. Any comments or questions from the public not related to tonight's event? Hearing and seeing none. Asking for a review of the emergency exit procedure.
Yep, so if there is an emergency, we are going to exit out this door behind you over to the left here, and I will be responsible for making sure 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 souls get out of the building.
Baker's done. Very good. Any questions on that? Okay. Any additions, deletions, or changes to the order of the agenda?
I just have one note that the logic and accuracy testing is actually going to happen in the office tomorrow at 2. Anybody is welcome to be there. You don't have to be. The 15 ballots that we have and the 15 test ballots per section took a lot longer to put together today than anticipated. So I'm almost done them, but they will be ready to run.
Okay, so the double asterisk at the bottom of the agenda is
Yep.
the testing and securing of the machines. I'm understanding that'll be done in the clerk's office at 2 o'clock on August 6th, Tuesday, is that correct?
Correct.
How will that be an open public process?
It doesn't need to be a warned, so anybody, it's an open public space and anybody can come in.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think we're okay, but anybody can come in and help us if they want to.
Very good. Questions on that? All right. I think you don't need this.
I don't need you. No. I mean, I need you, but I'd rather have you a week from tomorrow.
Item 5, the approval of minutes. We have minutes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections going back to October 2022, October 20th of 2022, April 13th of 2023, January 31st of 2023, July 25th of 2024, and a little out of order of May 6th of 2024. Everybody has those in their packet. Hope we can do this as a batch. We would accept the motion to approve the minutes.
That we do a batch vote.
Thank you. Al has moved that we will have a batch for all 5 sets of minutes. Second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Now, any discussion errors that people have noted? You can. That's your privilege. Some people choose to abstain just because they don't feel quite right. I don't know the exact wording, but I'm always here to wordsmith and find out that they spelled Tim with double R, double T, correct? Or the misspelling of names.
Or Trombley with an E.
There you go. Any discussion on the minutes? And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And anyone abstaining or voting, please speak up. Thank you, Elizabeth, for abstaining. Otherwise, everyone in favor.
I just want to make a mention on point of order for that. I'm sure that these are probably already approved, but we did not show so in Laserfish. So I was asked if I would just make sure that they were done. So thank you for that.
So in item 6, if you recall in our last meeting on July 25th, a member of the public, Ryan Doyle, had come before us and had raised some concerns about violations of open meeting law, especially when it came to appointments by city council. His claim was that folks were being voted on in executive session, and then the approval for that executive session appointment was being done on a consent agenda. So there really wasn't more of the public transparent process that the statute calls for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do we have an update on that, or what our next steps would be?
Yep. So I reached out to our legal department. Their advice was to send Mr. Doyle to our city website. Now, part of the open meeting law requires that every municipality kind of has a link on their website that goes directly to report open meeting law violation. So I sent that information with the link as well as the statute, and then he sent me back a communication today. And essentially his communication is he doesn't want to take that route. He feels like that would be an extensive amount of work for an individual resident to do. He's already brought these concerns publicly several times. So he's asking us as a BCA to take it up in September, either ahead or behind the appeals of the tax year.
Are you going to be distributing the email to?
I certainly can. He requested that I send it to you, which I did upon receiving today at 4:23. So I'll take direction from whatever you want me to do.
Okay. So I think where we had left at the last meeting was that we were going to discuss it with legal as far as what we could do where the Secretary of State was saying it's the BCA's thing. And we said, well, according to, yes, he said that the Secretary of State referred him to us. And then our legal now says that they want it filed in the normal fashion with a citizen complaint form that's available for any Vermonter to do this. Mr. Doyle now finds that, that probably requires chapter and verse for every infraction, called for, and he doesn't necessarily want to do the research. And that he feels that having brought it up, there should be action. So my next best guess, I haven't really discussed this, and this is why we would like to discuss it, I think, is that I would like to go back to our legal and see if they can communicate with the Secretary of State and ask us how to proceed on this matter before we unilaterally decide to do this. Does that sound like a good option, or maybe I want to know something?
No, I got a question because I kind of cut in that one because I was on a whole lot of time. So he's just saying that we made council-made appointments and he's upset with that because Felix.
He feels it violates the open meeting law.
But this board has nothing to do with appointments. Why can't we just state that to them and be done with it?
I'd rather hear the Secretary of State tell us why they think we are, and then, have our legal interpret whether we can take
Christine,
that.
so we already received advice from legal that
He's got an avenue.
said,
Yep.
BCA is the wrong avenue, this is the avenue. Why did we need to go back to they've advised us?
So I wouldn't say that the BCA said it was the wrong avenue. I think, or the legal team. I think the legal team said this is a point of education. So make sure that he knows that this is an avenue. I think the next step for legal is that they would probably want to be invited to a BCA meeting and go into executive session to discuss the propriety of a next step.
So I have a just general question. Regardless as to the legality as to how Ryan has brought this forward, for me, the underlying question is, he brought up concern about how council is making appointments. I would like to get advice from legal or from somebody as to whether his concern is legitimate. So that we know, yes, we need to change our protocol, or no, we're doing it correctly. For me, that's the bottom line, because as a counselor, I don't care how it gets handled. I just want to know that we're doing it right. And him bringing it forward casts shadow, which I would like to see eliminated. So that's my take.
I think his principal
Well spoken.
was that we're not getting reasons, and he contends that the statute requires us to. It would be good to know if that's true.
Yeah, I think the clarity is important.
So once again, it sounds like, and please weigh in, but I think that the BCA does not feel the need to get in between this matter. We don't want to step into an area that we're not historically comfortable with at the moment, unless legal and Secretary of State says, no, that is your role. Then in which case we're happy to do the investigation if it isn't going to fall on the Doyle himself, provide that original complaint. Yes, he's made a complaint to BCA. I assume he's made it in other realms as well. And so we'd like to know how to proceed. And so we too, I think, council obviously would like to hear some legal issues on this, but more importantly, the BCA would like to get a legal justification in consultation with the Secretary of State in order to know how to proceed. Whether that means Colin comes to our next meeting or in the interim, Colin talks to SOS and tells us at our next meeting.
We have a council meeting tonight and other agenda items. I'm willing to bring this forward to the council and say, this has come up.
Not tonight.
Also,
There is no need for speed on this whatsoever.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
candidates
At
who are
some point.
interested.
At some point.
At some point.
We do not want to be able to veto everybody. So that would be the limit of our power, is that we can't veto everybody. So therefore, why should we be voting on it?
Okay, I'm not following you. You don't.
Okay. For any position, there's so
Oh, for the
few
appointment,
candidates that to give us a veto power is ridiculous.
Oh, no, I don't think that's an issue here. I think the issue is the transparency of the process of the council, whether they're following the rules that are set out in state statute.
Right.
The only question is, does the BCA have any role at all in this? If they don't, we put it back on Mr. Doyle and say, you're going to have to find some other venue to introduce this complaint.
And I don't
not
think
the
we got
BCA.
the answer with Colin saying, well, he's got this opportunity to do it on his own. And now the citizen is saying, no, I'm not going to do it on my own. We now have to go back to, as the BCA, Colin, our city attorney, and say, can you talk to SOS and figure out, where we go from here?
Yep.
Is it a BCA issue, or do we, as city clerk, BCA, file the complaint on his behalf? In fact, because he's unwilling to do that.
But I agree with Lori, that's not the only question. That's the process question, but there is a substantive question which we all like to know.
Which we can,
Yeah.
there's no hurry for this, except that we're going to be making,
We're going to be making
we're going to be
appointments in
making
August.
decisions soon, and I want to
So-
know that we're doing it correctly.
Yeah, if we're supposed to give a reason, then we should know we're supposed to do that.
I don't recall what grounds he said he gave for this being.
Because the direct reference from when he called up Secretary of State was go to your BCA. And that might be flimsy because it's like talking to the IRS sometimes.
That's what
Brand
he
new
got.
SOS.
That's what
And,
he
you know,
got.
you call on Monday, you're gonna get, a different answer on Monday. So,
Well, there may be
okay.
city council, but the city council, I mean, it is what he's suggesting is the wrong process, is the wrong process, except by statute, but the Supreme Court has said that it's okay to ratify a decision made.
Oh, was that right? Oh, you know that?
Yeah.
Oh,
So the process we're doing is correct.
It's incorrect by statute, but according to
But the Supreme Court has said it's
Court
acceptable.
said it.
oh,
Okay.
well, that's useful. Are you an attorney?
Yes.
Okay, well, good. That's
So
useful
you
to
can
know.
ratify it, but that seems unseemly to me.
Again, all we're worried about is the BCA, and we think this is above our pay grade.
Yes.
And we'd like to hear that from legal before we reflect the citizens' complaint to other areas, whether it's the Secretary of State directly, the ombudsman for the state, city council themselves, or the complaint form as discussed. But I don't think we're ready to act on it. Is that correct, Strathmore?
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't want to burn any more oil in this than we possibly have to.
So our next steps are,
So as soon as I get the minutes, the draft minutes from Sue, I will forward those on to our city attorney and highlight
that we're looking
the
for.
desire for follow-up ahead of or at the September meeting.
Yeah, so we know how to proceed, if at all. And in the meantime, I'll tell Mr. Doyle we're doing it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Other questions, concerns on item 6? Okay. We need to approve number 7, approve the presiding officers, election officials, and election workers state primary. We have in your packet a voluminous list of names. Hopefully they're all.
You can share it.
No.
Yeah, you're fine.
5 polling locations with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 election officials.
I just want to make sure presiding officers are especially okay. I haven't heard from Chris Trombley. Have you heard from Chris? Chris?
I have not,
Okay.
other than, yeah, he's been around. I expect to see him on Thursday as well.
Okay. I'll put a call in.
Okay. He's so live, he's just busy.
Yeah. I totally understand. Yeah.
No county, we don't have much. This is the one election where it takes the longest now. Because everybody who came from, they're on Republican ballot, they want to Democrat across now. So it's a lot of writings for the county.
Yep.
That's what the ticker tape's for. Ticker tape is wonderful for that.
Yeah, as proportionate. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
the number.
okay.
Right, proportionate.
Change.
For instance, you're voting.
I could take his,
All day?
sorry, I could take his county, I could get me in here, whatever, I hang around that day.
Okay.
I don't
I
know.
was troublesome.
Okay.
So you've got to still go. I mean,
I
there's
know.
no separate. It is.
We'll figure it out.
I'm voting my son.
Oh,
7%.
Avoid a little piece of land on the coast.
All right, so you have your list of election officials, assistant election officials, and presiding officers. I would make a motion to approve.
Sounds like they changed
So
it.
they are.
Not the,
Thank you, Al.
not the names, but
Okay.
maybe where they might be.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion on the names? All those in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye. Raise your hand. Anyone opposed or abstaining? Please stop. Okay, unanimous.
Can I just ask Donna maybe a process question? Do we have to approve voting by tabulator? Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Just make sure it goes in the record somewhere. The seal numbers and like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect, thank you.
So, item 8, review the election day schedule.
Yep, so if everyone can just verify that they are available for the times, although Andrew just let me know, so I start him. And Alan, Barb, you need to be at 3:30, not 3. Is that right?
That's fine.
Okay. Chris?
Just can't turn up your air
I did have
This is
a
it.
request for a different
Actually,
change of scenery.
No, it does. HVAC was installed there because from the FAA dollars. Now, whether it's on or not, that may be a question for the
I
school
will
district.
ask. I will
Yeah.
ask that it's on.
No.
No, they have it.
They do.
so.
Okay, anybody else? Laura, I got your change in, so thank you for that. And so Cecile, oops, sorry, so sorry. Laura had asked for a different change in schedule this afternoon, so I flipped you around. So I just want to make sure that 7 a.m. to 1:30 works for you. Because that's not what originally I had. Is that okay? Okay, and Elizabeth, I know you're away. Yep. Are you in Maine building a cabin with Andrew? Any other changes that you see that need to be made? And Margaret, you have yours? I've got you in
I
Chamberlain.
haven't been up that early for years.
Are
Wow.
you able to be up that early?
Certainly, yes.
Okay.
I maybe, yes.
Okay.
Do you need a wake-up call?
Oh, she does. Chris is going to give it to her.
There we go.
Any other changes that I need to be aware of? So I'll rework this just a little bit and work Lori in a little bit more as I work Andrew out.
Wait, where's
and,
Andrew going?
He's going to be in Maine.
You know,
I'm gonna be
Listen,
working.
I don't want to be in
I'm
between the two of
working,
you.
not on vacation.
So while we're all here, raise your hand if you're not going to be here November 5th. Everybody's locked and loaded for the big day, I'm sure. Okay.
it's not going to be a very big election.
You don't think? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Security, maybe. Okay, that was it for that one.
Super. So item 8 is done. Let's move on to item 9, reviewing job duties for front desk workers and regulated workers.
Yep, so I just was building off something that was already put together. So just take a quick look, and you can feel free to, email me tomorrow too before I send this out to everybody, which probably won't be till Wednesday or Thursday. But just trying to give a little overview of the Board of Civil Authority, what the presiding officer does versus, what to do with the checklist. This is the one where you have a tabulator, so you've got somebody watching the tabulator, and it's also very confusing because you get 3 ballots, you vote 1, that goes into the tabulator, the other 2 go into the shred bin, as people always call it, the other ballot box. So it will be labeled with, unvoted ballots, so people know that we're not just trashing them, as well as what the back of the table do for counting. And then just some information about poll watchers and campaigning at the polls and voters with disabilities and what to do if you get stuck. So I don't really need an action, but please feel free to read through and email me with any questions or any corrections so I can get that pulled together. I think for this election, I just want to remind everybody that we have the accessible voting machines, which are a treasure to set up. OmniBallot has already been here, so they've done the testing and the logic and accuracy. And Donna can attest to the fact that yes, we set them up and they're ready to go, but hardly used or maybe never used. So there's one for each site, and then we also have an extra, but that is part of this election, and it will also be part of the November election. And then we won't see them again for 2 years. Okay, so those of you that are packing up and meeting me at the office first thing in the morning on Tuesday, it's a lot of luggage, so just be prepared. Happy to help you get it out the door, but it's, the yellow and black big bin, it's the tabulator computer, it's the election computer, it's also the OmniBallot, and then all the different boxes. So it's like 2 cartloads. Yeah. Yeah. So I know Andrew voted early, but does anybody else have questions about kind of the state primary ballot process? It's just confusing. We've had, 1,000 plus early absentee ballots mailed out, and probably 10 to a dozen phone calls every day of what do I do? Or the voted ballot coming back with the signature, and then I threw the other ones out. So it's been a lot of kind of tracking. And question for you, somebody came in and said today, why don't we do this in September? We've always done this in September. And I said, will we do it in August? When, do you know? And do you know why?
It was to get the state more time in candidates once they're voted in.
Got it. To campaign.
Get the ballots ready.
Okay, that makes sense.
And overseas, with military voters, more chance to get the ballots down, take them back.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you. I thought maybe it was because there were no kids in school, so it was easier to use the public resources. So any questions at all, kind of just in the general process of what this election looks like compared to, I know we had a slew in the spring of just the one question, photocopied sheet that was an easy yes, no, threw it into the bin. This was a little more complicated and confusing. So everyone's getting 3 ballots. Whatever you do with those, the one that you're voting goes through the tabulator, the other ones go in the other.
So we can expect a lot of mess ups when we unpack the
Could be.
absentee ballots, which are scheduled for, we're doing a Friday morning, this Friday this week, 9 to 11, is it?
Yeah, I would be surprised if there's mess ups there. So part of the part of the process when we receive them back, we do kind of the weight test the best that we can, right, and see, well, does this envelope feel heavier? And so we've verified all of those. So there's an unvoted ballot box, and then each of the others are.
So when it comes to the absentee ballots, we don't have to worry about, are there 2 being returned unvoted and 1 being voted all?
No,
It's already been handled.
so when we pre-process, you won't have to deal with the unvoted because they've already been verified.
In the front, go ahead. In the front desk, when they do their summation, right, they're going to have 3 numbers when they're done. right?
No, because you'll just
No?
have the one number. So everybody's getting 3 ballots.
Right,
So it's different than like the, I
But-
want the D or I want
but
this
only one goes to the machine, right?
Right. But they'll only be checked off once.
They'll only be checked off in one column,
Mhm.
either Progressive, Republican, or Democrat.
They'll be checked
Right.
off as getting a ballot,
Oh, really?
even though they
Okay.
get all 3. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
different than the other,
I just couldn't remember, so.
than the other primary.
So,
Every 10th voter will try and leave 2 ballots at the front desk. People want to vote.
Yes,
And you
I
have to
would
chase
say
them down.
one of the biggest challenges has been, and it's up to the voter, but like the confidentiality of voting. So even across the counter, here you're, I only want this one. I'm like, you're gonna take all 3. You keep your.
The confidentiality belongs to them.
I know. So we've been trying our best, but I just, people will hear that, and the best we can to just shut it down and say, here are your 3 ballots. You make your choice with your pen.
And that is easy.
What's that?
3-card Monte, one of those 3 ballots.
So, yeah, so there's a process. So if they only mail in, the one, then they need to fill out the affidavit and come in and make the correction. And, so we've caught up. I think we still have 2 pending for people to come in and do the whole package. So
They make the correction.
so give them the package
The 3
again.
again.
Yep. And then hold the others with the affidavit, just so in case there was ever a question.
Where do we need this right now?
Upstairs, 3rd floor.
So again, looking ahead for November, do we have any, there was a question on the back of the official election information. We have an accessible ballot marking tool which anyone can use.
So that's the Omni ballot.
And we'll have
Machine.
that will be available.
Has to be available for November as well.
And so that's the whole printer box
Yep.
setup that comes on its own.
Yep.
It's a bit of a nightmare to reacquaint yourself with.
Yep.
I thankfully never have had to use.
And Donna said she's never had to actually use it in action either, but
Well, it was, when it first came out, because someone that worked there, they had gone through 2 ballots. Finally, it was like their 3rd ballot. So this is your last ballot. Your limit, you can't give more than 3 ballots for the person in the town. So this is your last time. So why don't we go over to the machine and then do it and look at it? That's some time.
and that worked okay though.
So there will be an Omni ballot machine at each one of the polls.
Yep, there will be, and it's set to actually run a ballot through.
The
So,
prolific instructor. Training, will we have any training?
I mean,
Can we set one up on Friday morning?
and we can.
That would help.
will you
Okay.
be pre-counting ballots?
Yes, Friday morning.
You will, okay. So that's a good time to do this.
Logistical nightmare because they have a pad, printer, machine, so we have 4 or 5 parts.
So would your preference be that we all set it up together and watch it be set up? Or do you want me to have it set up so we can run something?
I think
I'll do it together,
We all do it-
step by step.
We all do it together, we'll know what.
When you,
where we're-
We may be there for a while.
so you're talking about the ADA voting
Yes.
machines? Okay, but we also have the die bolts, right? The regular voting machine.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
tabulators.
So again, my question was, on the tally sheets, we have to put the total number, we have to try and match the front desk. So for each
Oh.
of those, are they going to give us a count for Democrat, Republican, and Progressive to put on the tally sheets?
No,
We don't have to put that on there?
no. Because a vote is returning all 3 ballots.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
So they just need the number of total return.
How many
so-
people voted? Yep.
All right,
Yeah, because the assumption is that we've tracked
Okay.
that ahead of time and that we're tracking that at the election.
okay. So okay, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
So the total of all of those should equal,
the same.
the total, yeah, okay. Should.
Yep. Should.
all right,
On
so
the Omni machine, if you have it all set up ahead of time, and just take it apart and take it together, you know it that way.
I'm happy to do whatever you
Whatever-
suggest.
Well, it's just to get,
I can,
if you
you
want to
tell
make sure
me.
it's set up right ahead of time, and then we all just go through that.
One of the things that I did is at the end of each quarter, I said, this part goes into the printer, this part goes into the tablet, this part goes into here. this part goes
They're
into-
already labeled. They're labeled.
Which end goes into what? So
Okay.
The two hardest parts are make sure you push the key in all the way to get the little port to unlock, and the other one is that you got to figure out how to turn it on. There's a little tiny internal like button that you press. Bring a magnifying glass. Okay?
Donna, from your best experience, would you recommend I have it set up ahead of time or that we all set it up together?
I would do it, yeah, unassembled first and then assemble it.
I guess it doesn't hurt to set it up and then everybody can look at it.
Okay,
I mean, have it set up. and
so
set it
I'll
up.
set it up in advance.
Don't set it up.
Don't set it up in advance,
And
okay?
then people can see it and they'll just want to look at it. No, Chris?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Anything else on the omnibus ballot? Okay, we'll have it set up, we'll play with it. And
Well, we won't have it set up.
we'll connect with that. We'll connect.
We'll have it available, we will set it all up together and ask questions.
So again, two other questions that occurred to me. And one would be provisional ballots. Do we have those with this primary election? Or is that
We
just
do.
the president?
We always have that,
Okay.
Except for local.
except for the local election. So yes, those will be in the
So if
stock of
somebody's
things.
demanding that even though they're
Yep.
registered in the state database in Plainfield, that they work at 180 they live at 180 Market Street,
Yeah.
and we need to vote right now because it's 6:45, and they're never going to make it back to Plainfield in 15 minutes. If they need to vote right now, you might offer them a provisional ballot.
Yes, yep, and they will be available. I would also note, for whatever reason, and I've asked the Secretary of State's office, and they don't know the reason either, but we've had 5 or 6 people in the last 2 weeks register to vote that are houseless, yet are using the Staples parking lot as their address.
Wow.
So only to know where you're supposed to vote, where your domicile is, wherever you're sleeping or spending more than 50% of your time in the city. But I don't know why that seems to be a location, but
This is a good place on top of all the homeless sites.
I know, I was like, well, I would think Shelburne Road, but that's
I
fine.
mean, we used to have the bridge under the underpass on Shelburne Road. We've had them before.
Yeah,
Or someone has just a general delivery box kind of thing, no address. so-
yeah. So I mentioned that only because they seem to be coming through the Dropbox, and there's not a telephone number or an email. So I am putting them in the district where they are suggesting, but I don't have a way of communicating that to them. So should somebody come, I mean, it'll be on the voter checklist just like anything else, so it's the right district.
What if they also try to register in Burlington the next day?
Well, then Burlington would,
It would show up in the database.
yeah,
and
yeah,
conflict.
so it'd be connected by social security number
Yeah.
or ID, so they would, yeah, they'd pull them. I did have one person who registered, well, wanted to register through online registration today, but has already been given a ballot from Burlington, so I have to wait till Wednesday to register them.
If one of them shows up at the wrong polling place
Just like
And-
anybody.
and says, I can't get to the polling place, can they be given a provisional ballot?
They
But
could.
it's not going-
I just think sometimes it can get a little confrontational.
Right, and the whole idea of provisional ballot was the fact, Vermont really doesn't need one except for that person who lives in New Jersey, happens to get there for work, and they want to vote for the president, and I don't care, I'm voting for the president.
Yeah.
So like, give them a provisional ballot, you get to go, and go back and vote, and go, and it just doesn't count.
We didn't see it.
But if someone,
I'm just wondering how to de-escalate if somebody comes in and they're
yeah, I mean,
saying,
that
I need to vote now, and I'm the wrong place.
would, what does count as an unregistered voter in the state of Vermont? So you wouldn't count that ballot, you have the right to vote.
But if they resident in a different district, would
That is something that the board who was there would have to decide after the fact.
the New Jersey.
And it could be the next day, you have a meeting, they will decide, well, okay, let's just add it to the correct district's total,
So the BCA here,
if there is something. I mean, even the BCA at the polls that day, Even if it's only 2 people, you're the quorum, you are the people that can decide that.
So I would say, just to reiterate, because I know that this was, there were a couple wonky circumstances with the school revote last year. Like, this is you have to be at the right polling location because there are ballots per district. So you can't show up at Orchard at 6:59 and say, oh, I just moved and I didn't update that, so can I just vote here? You will not be able to do that. You have to vote on that ballot. Well,
If they move in that district, you have to register and vote. If they just happen to be, can't get over.
that's what I meant, yeah. So just be aware of that. So we have,
Let me say that again. So if someone comes in to say here, and vote, and wants to vote, but they really should vote in every Orchard. And they live in Orchard, and if they live in Orchard, they cannot vote here. They have to make it before 7 o'clock.
And down at Orchard is where they changed their address and all that.
If it was wherever they live. So if they're on the polls on Orchard and they have moved into this district area, they would have to go.
But if they move into this district and they show up here, but they haven't changed their address,
They can do it.
then they can do it. Keep all of that straight.
So that also leads to the same-day registration voting. Will we, as presiding officers at each of the locations, be responsible for doing that? Is there any staff from city
so there'll
clerk's
be,
office?
yeah, there'll be staff at Tuttle to do that, but not anywhere else.
So if I had an house, going to go at 6:45, and they don't quite know where to go, I can call them, what's the curfew to just like, just like the real world.
So, yes.
Then the other question would be 17-year-olds that will be turning 18 by November 5th.
So no.
Yes.
So
you're-
not the
If you're
local.
gonna be, we're not local, this is a state.
State
So as long as they're gonna be 18 by November.
by November 5th.
They can vote in this election. And they're already on the checklist, most of them probably.
As 7, yeah.
And so, this is no local issue on the ballot.
There is no local issue on the ballot.
They get merged in with everybody else in the checklist. When you run the checklist stuff, and then 17-year-olds and with everybody else, then you're on.
Does the system indicate automatically that they're going to be 18? No, I don't think
The
so.
system will know if they're gonna be 18 by.
They will, and just print them on the checklist. Okay, so, well, the answer is yes and no. They will show up on the checklist as a registered voter that you don't have to, they're not going to be on a 17-year-old
You
checklist.
could pull them out if you wanted to, put them on a separate binder, but since there's no state, no city issues.
But
Right,
if any youngster shows up with a birthday on their driver's license, November 5th or prior, then they're eligible.
Then they're
Same thing
eligible.
voted in-
Yep.
In all the ballots.
yes.
Do we need to require proof of birthday? Or can I declare that I'm going to be 18 by November 5th? In other words, we're not usually requiring same-day voter registration for anything other than your driver's license number or your social security number
Right.
that you self-declare. So are we accepting a self-declare of your birthday being on or before November 5th?
And we are allowed to ask for their.
No,
That's where I mean.
and so no, you wouldn't be, no, you wouldn't ask.
I mean,
And they
any
would-
youngster I know would be proud to show their driver's.
Sure, sure. So, again,
I know, that's why I asked.
But someone hands it to you, you're quite able to take it and look at it. but you can't ask.
yeah.
Sorry, November 6th, can't come in the bar.
So that's going to be, they're all going to be on your list anyway.
They're going to be on the list anyway, and, again, the primaries are like the selection process, right? So it's not officially voting, because if it's voting, you have to have taken an oath. They won't be able to take the oath until they're 18, so.
Any other quirky questions about same-day voter registration on the ballot? birthday, early 17.
I remember giving some of those kids a future voter sticker when they were 2 years old. Now look at them, they're going to be voting this year. It's incredible. Time flies. I've only been city council for 8 years, so I just made that up. It's not true.
Oh, no. Sorry, no. Everybody, every district will have a voter computer like we always do, so you can look up to make sure that they're not somewhere else. And yeah, they can register there, if that's where they're supposed to be. Yeah, if they're supposed to be somewhere else, then you have to send them somewhere else and they can register there.
Okay.
Make sense?
Any other questions on
I have a
item
comment.
9, job duties for front desk tabulators and our general duties stuff? Registering new voters and helping voters who need assistance with disability.
Or anything else that's come up that's been wonky, or what should we do about this, or what did we do about this?
Yeah, any concerns from the previous election?
I guess one thing
Fire
is-
exits blocked, et cetera. Bomb scares, I mean, somebody pulls a fire alarm in the school, I mean, these things are going to happen.
We did have a fire alarm. that went off.
Yes, you did last election.
We
So
did.
what's your responsibility? What is our responsibility?
Well, the responsibility is to make sure that as much as possible, the location is secured.
And
And
shut the doors, made sure that nobody got in, went out with everybody.
Yeah.
There's a procedure that in the book, in the delivery book,
Yeah.
says, you do not be valid, not be machine detected. So if you were to leave, those would go out.
Take it with you. Just unplug the whole machine and just roll it out. Yep. Yep.
so you need to make sure that there's two, so you'd have,
Checklist.
Yeah.
The machine that has the balance.
So
Yeah.
the card- So the
It's a
front
card,
desk
yeah, we
worker,
use a card carrier, yeah.
the front desk workers checklist and the card, and
The
the.
balance, so 3 things,
the checklist
checklist, the balance.
and the tabulator.
So if there's a door directly to the outside,
As long as you can.
as long as you can see.
As long as you can see them. The question to be whether or not it truly is an emergency, then you get several people close by that you step in and that everything.
This was not a true emergency, but thank goodness.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is, one thing is with the same day voter registration, and this is the issue I had the most with is, please make sure all the lines on the voter application are filled out. And in the gray box that has a bunch of voter registrations, why is one, it's all like on highlighted, all yellow. It says, these are all the ones to fill out, because you'd be surprised, something's not right, it's not clear, you can't contact the person, you get the bill in, it's missing, and something's not right, and that's not an address, it's South Burlington, or it's 150 Dorset Street, there's no box, et cetera, and you can't register there, you can't get in touch with anybody. So just make sure that the whole thing is filled out correct, or filled out,
Yep.
so that,
Thank you for that. And I will also, just not to offend anybody, because I am the worst culprit, but we can really be encouraging people to write neatly, because that's the only information I have to go off of, and I enter it into the system. So if it's not clear how to spell a name, they're going to get entered under what I think it looks like. And also other things that are really important, if they have a middle initial or a middle name, that's important to put in. Always date of birth. And, you know, it's always helpful to have a contact information. Some people don't like to fill that out. But if there's ever an issue, an email or a phone number is really handy to have.
an email and not public information. So they say, I don't want to give that, because you got it in now, it's not public information, so we can't have that.
And only U.S. nationals and naturalized citizens are allowed to register to vote, right? Green card holders are not allowed to register, because we had that situation. in
That is
Chamberlain.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
U.S. nationals and naturalized citizens.
Would they have a social security number if they were only a green card? No, they wouldn't. But if they are naturalized and have a,
If they're naturalized, they should have one.
they should.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much the number we go
Yeah.
on. And, you know, But if they just have a Vermont driver's license number, that also works, doesn't it?
Yep.
Even if they're not allowed to vote and they have a driver's license number, with that number, they'll still vote, correct? Because it's an either or, if I remember the form.
Well, we have two types of licenses, right? We've got real ID and non-real ID, right?
As long as it's a driver's license, the
Yeah.
United States, that's the same.
Okay.
But it's real ID, driver's
Okay.
ID.
But am I wrong on that form? for saying
It's
they have
both.
a decision? You have to
One
have
or.
both,
One or the other.
So if I'm a non-citizen with a driver's license, I can say.
You have to check off that, you have to attest that you are.
Because we have registered someone and they ticked off on through and they get in the mail like, what's this, what is? I can't, I'm not a US citizen. I'm like, well, you ticked off the box saying you're a US citizen.
Okay. So again, we're going by their self-report.
That's right.
That they are US, either naturalized or, what was the other term you used?
Recurrent. Well, it's a U.S. national.
US.
I will say,
It's a very DOD term, you know.
I put on,
But it's not our job.
right.
I'll tell you more
Well,
about that.
That's exactly right. It's not our job to be detectives, and voter fraud isn't voter fraud until it's voter fraud. So the Secretary of
you have to
State's
rely on
office
what they tell
just
you.
put out a little 8-minute video, which is, it's really good. And I think it's accessible to everybody. So go to the website and check that out when you have 5-10 minutes, 8 minutes.
It doesn't really address all the issues.
No, it doesn't, but it's a good overview. It's a good overview.
And the other thing, I think is important to stress, and I tend to go to an extreme, faced with extremes that, people getting in your face and demanding this or that, or they're yelling at you for this or that. And even in the Vermont Constitution, it says, voters are allowed to vote if they are with peaceful behavior. Is that correct? And if I find somebody's being obstreperous or in my face, I'm not going to let them continue in, treat the polling location like a library. It's like, you need to leave. If you want to come back in a peaceful behavior at some point, we might be able to allow you to vote. If it's 5 minutes to 7, I'm sorry, and you want to get to Chittenden at 8, and you're here at Chittenden at 10, and, you're not going to make it in 5 minutes, you definitely voting, no matter how you go. But I think that that's always my fallback, is that you have the right to determine that somebody's behavior is not peaceful and allowing them to vote. And that might just send it to even worse. But that is, my fallback. I'm not
We
sure
had
if
nice
I was
votes.
5'4",
We had none of that.
approach.
Is that a frequent thing you've run into, Chris?
I've had it once. And, it's just people looking to
Just one.
and that it'll happen again. Yeah.
And I'm assuming that the primaries, there's less of a risk of that than there is.
Yes.
For November.
And it's probably something where Donna is not taking the same approach. Because Donna's much better at handling confrontation.
All right, Chris, where are you? I guess I need
I think
to
we're
make
all
sure
done.
I know
Whoa, whoa.
where you are.
I think we're on number 10.
Other business?
Yeah, well, you can move on to other
Yeah,
business.
oh.
Unless there are any other comments about.
Before you do that, I have one more question about this conversation I've never thought about security that much.
Mhm.
But if somebody comes to a polling place and is threatening, I know there are a bunch of us there and somebody can call 911, but there's no other security prepared at any polling place at this point.
Correct. There certainly is not going to be in August, and there is not planned to be in November. Oftentimes, whether there's a school resource officer or somebody of a presence when kids are in school, sometimes that's happened, but there's not plans.
We did have one election
Security.
where we had some South Burlington police officers in attendance. I think it was when Elizabeth unilaterally decided to change the name from Rebels to Wolves. It was a bit of a backlash. Thank you, Elizabeth. But that was the only time I felt the need.
And if you call up and say, this is, so-and-so at the polls, I have an issue, they're there. They come very quickly.
We had some good people. Had none of those issues.
And Any other questions about previous elections? Signage, one of the things that, again, looking forward to November. We've had individuals come in and try and put a 6x6 sign right out on a tree, planted on stakes in front of polling locations, but can we review how that is as far as our guidelines? I don't think we have a copy here in our packet, but it should be in the gray book, correct?
It's definitely in the gray book. I can send something out too. I don't anticipate anything being an issue Tuesday, but you never know.
That's the last
If there
time we
was
had
a
an
confrontation,
Was it?
you would call the police. You wouldn't want to try to do it
I
yourself.
would, no,
I mean, you just, even if you know karate.
definitely.
So basically, they can have freestanding signs from the road in to the parking area, but the area that's just before the store, there could be no freestanding signs. Someone's going to be
Holding it.
So as polling officers, design officers, we go out and check it so long to make sure.
But there is no limitation on the size.
Well,
Yeah, we did.
if it's freestanding, isn't there within our sign ordinance something?
Yes, well, not sign off, what we did
As a BCA.
as a receiver.
For the school.
I think we did set a limit to size. I mean, people can have placards out in the parking lot if they want, that's fine, that's not
Bars and stuff.
in the parking lot.
Big billboard on a bar, that's a pretty common occurrence.
Now, the way that Orchard is set up, they go through one door and then exit out a different door. And there's an area where they exit and people have put signs there. And it's close to a door, but it's the exit door. Is that okay or no? Because at Orchard, they do put their signs up down the road
Yeah.
into the parking lot. But there's question about that little area where they exit.
You mean at Orchard coming out the gym door that, so for this round, there won't be students. So they won't, you'll go in through the front door, out through that gym door.
Right.
I mean, really the reason for not having, is voter interference and they've already voted. So as long as there's proper egress, I don't see an issue with that.
It's close to the door, but it's
Yeah.
the exit door. Just
Yeah.
need clarification on that.
Yeah.
That came up at the last election too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whose property is it? Oh, yes, right at the door, right on the exit.
It's the BCA's property.
So it's okay.
Yeah, I think so. Mhm.
Other questions, concern?
That would not be the case here. You wouldn't be able to have exit signs here.
Because we've said no on this.
Yeah.
Of the views from us. Okay. Any other business?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So the people that are in the schools, right, the school has its own Wi-Fi. It's filtered heavily. You can't get to your favorite websites like Facebook and Twitter and things like that. But you'll have a Verizon hotspot. So if you want to, you can log into that Verizon Wi-Fi hotspot, but you have to plug it in and activate it, turn it on. That'll be used by the laptop for the Omni, right?
Yep.
So,
Well, just for
and also for the secretaries. So the laptop will use that, right?
That's right.
Just the laptop.
Yeah.
Right.
So there'll be the hotspot for the laptop will be at Orchard and Chamberlain and at Tuttle.
Tuttle.
And then here at the senior center is Wi-Fi. So you just be able to log on. Well, it'll be already set. But.
So that there is documentation on the password in the briefcase, I believe, so.
Yep. And then those hotspots will be in the laptop briefcases.
So all the Wi-Fi.
Streaming movies.
Where
Well,
you're going to be here.
maybe here, so,
Oh, you're
yeah,
gonna be
the
good.
Wi-Fi here is perfect. Yeah. Won't even need that little.
The only other thing I would say is we've had just a handful in the last several elections, complaints from residents that either somebody at the check-in table was too liberal with some comments, or one person came to check in whose name was Sanchez, and the check-in person said something like, wow, that's a name we don't see here often. And the person took offense to that. So just doing a general reminder to everybody that, we need the election space to be as neutral and just as business-like as possible. You want to be pleasant, but
Is that a conversation you want us as a polling officers to have with the front desk when we start the shift?
so I think it would be a good reminder. That would be great, just to kind of set the tone. And, I think that's probably all that needs to be done. There'll be some stuff to read that they have to kind of sign off on that. Yep, I read what Holly wrote. But just putting it out there to this group as a reminder. So we definitely want to make sure that everyone feels, that they can vote and feel welcomed and
So say nothing.
I mean, just pleasant, just be pleasant.
Polite and courteous.
It can be difficult if someone is speaking a very thick accent.
Yeah.
You're trying to determine their last name, but you can't discover it. How appropriate if you have a pad of paper for them to write their name?
Sure.
That's good.
Because sometimes,
That's a good idea.
yeah, or just ask them to spell it.
Well, and I have to say, it could be any name. I mean, if you're staring at letters long enough during the day, you can get a little confused, and while it seems like an easy job, the check-in is not easy.
I know.
It's
When
a lot
somebody
of
comes to me and
steps.
goes, "Saw," and they're like, how do you spell it? It's with an X. I'm like, oh, that's the person over there.
Right.
No, I'm an S over here.
Right. Right. So it isn't an easy job. And I think having a pad of paper there is great.
And officers should, try not to get into any discussions about any of the issues that the votes are about, or the people, or the parties, or any other underlying political issues, right?
Yeah.
Inside the polling place or even outside too, right? So you're trying to be neutral.
Wrong, but that's what I like.
Because, you'll see people that you're like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And they'll go, hey, how about that thing on the city council? You're like, hey, no, let's not talk about that here, okay? Talk about that outside, so. But sometimes you'll just fall into a conversation, and before you know it, they'll be talking, and you're like, oh, I can't talk about that. So anyway, just a reminder.
Yeah.
They very converse with you about what's on their mind. They're at a pool, and obviously.
And that's also for all of us as well.
Yeah.
We're standing there, it's very easy to get a conversation. It's like,
Well,
what do you think about
conversation,
that?
Anything else?
And take a walk around all of the voting booths and make sure nobody left any literature in there. I do that several times a day, as you look for pens that have been abandoned as well.
COVID protocol.
We don't have any. Listen, I will take your advice. We have probably 8,500 COVID tests. If you think it would be helpful, I am happy to bring some to the polling locations for people to take. But we don't have any COVID protocols that are given to us. We will have hand sanitizer there available as people feel like they might want. We will continue to hand sanitize the pens and get those in rotation. We are using the special ballot pens, so you don't have to guard those with your life. We do have plenty, but we just want to make sure that they're in rotation. But other than that, there'll be personal protective gear. So if you feel like you want to wear a mask, you certainly can, and it'll be supplied, but not any kind of requirement, no social distancing. I don't know how you survived that, Donna, but wow.
That's how come we have one exit, and we used to go in and out the same door, and that's how come now we have just one door.
Yeah.
In and out.
I don't know I don't know of any bake sales happening because kids aren't in school for this round, but November, you better believe, I'm sure every lobby will have some sort of bake sale.
And you have everybody's phone number, cell
Yep,
number.
so we reviewed that at the last meeting, so I think we're good with that.
Anything else? Second motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Andrew. All those in
Okay.
favor, say aye. Anyone abstaining, hang around, do the crossword.